And that was the Cowboy Junkies. And we're back to wrap up what has been a very fun panel. I've really enjoyed it, and I've got 2 questions left. And I think often when we talk about the challenges we face and the hurdles ahead, it can get depressing. And so I want to ask a bit of a positive question. I want to go around the table, and Colleen, we'll start with you. I want to ask what you think the 2 or 3 most important victories that the labor movement has won for women in the last 20, 30, 40 years. And I'm going to throw my own out. And Bonnie Downey isn't here, and she's with CUPE, but CUPE's work around maternity leave, I think, needs to be mentioned. As I said, Bonnie was called away, but I think that victory that we now have of maternity leave and paternity leave that people can take is so important. So I want to go around the table, and I want to talk about, over the last 50 years, some of the things that we've won, that or any time frame you want, just some of the victories we've won as a labor movement that you think are most important, and to remind people that victories are possible, that good things happen. So anybody who wants it, jump right in.
Well, I'm just going to, you said Colleen, I'm going to go there with just breaking down barriers and, fighting for strong collective agreement language. And again, when we talk about pay equity, that's a number one fight that we've been fighting for years and years and years. We're actually working on pay equity right now with the Toronto District School Board. And, when we talk about women breaking down barriers, we actually have workshops that we facilitate, and we ask our brothers and men who come and say, hey, I want to learn what the fights and struggles that women have gone through. And right now my mind is going blank, but all I could say is strong collective agreement language that we've been working very hard, and pay equity.
Pay equity immediately jumped to my mind because I think it's the most important thing that's happening and could happen for women, especially right now with this notion of 0 and 0 on the table for wage increases, and the knowledge that women continue to earn less than men in the same jobs in workplaces today. That's very real. So pay equity for me, and the notion that actually hasn't gone away. It was a win, Joel, but we have to still fight for this, because we're seeing employers who are refusing to honor pay equity settlements, and they're being allowed to do this, which is quite shocking. And I think that one of the great things is that the Ontario Federation of Labour is going to start to run a campaign, and I know that my own organization, OPSEU, is also talking about having pay equity flying squads and making sure that women haven't left their money at the table. And I think that's the slogan: have you left your money at the table? And it's very eye-catching. What do you mean, have I left my money at the table? Because I think that pay equity is one of the only ways for women to get ahead in the workplace today. So that it has been very important to me. Certainly we could talk about the right to vote and maybe even the right to be declared women or persons. Those things...
Own a credit card?
Listen, those things all just happened not that long ago. So, Jennie,
absolutely.
Maybe Jennie will tell us what we've really won.
Well, there's so many structural things, right? Like the fact that we have the public goods that we do, right? Having social housing, having health care, which eventually, allowed women to have safe abortions and their right to choose. Having the power of a collective agreement gives women, it actually institutionalizes a mechanism for women and for workers to fight for their rights, not only in terms of their pay and their wages, but also in terms of fighting discrimination, harassment in the workplace, fighting to have better quality services that they want to provide. But it empowers them and enables them to do it within the workplace. And I currently do not have a unionized job, and I'm lucky to have a great employer. But what if he leaves and someone else comes in? I don't have that mechanism of a collective agreement to fight for that. And so I'm very conscious of that, and that's a very important tool that empowers women, that empowers the workers. I want to share something kind of personal that I was really amazed. I remember once I was meeting with some Unite Here workers, and the women told me that one of the most, inspirational things that the union did for them was that they realized that they had the capacity to fight back. You know, they were taught all their lives to be nice, to play nice, don't raise your voice. And then they realized that they could be on the other side of that table. They didn't have to wear the uniform, and they could tell the boss exactly what they needed and that they were going to get it. And on top of that, not only did they find the empowerment within the workplace, but they told me that once they realized they didn't have to take shit from their boss, they didn't have to take shit from home. And a lot of them ended up leaving abusive relationships because not only did they have the empowerment and the willpower to say, you know what, I don't have to take this anymore, but they had a good job. They had, through their union, they were to have a livable wage where if they needed to leave that abusive relationship, they could. And so to me, that is one of the biggest achievements of the labor movement, is enabling women to be truly independent and people, you know, to be able to live decent lives. And we know that's at risk. And we know that the services that we provide for women who have been abused are drastically underfunded and drastically need to change. But I've always said one of the most important things we need to do for women is not only give them support and care and counseling, that is important. We also need to give them good jobs and real choices.
And I think it's a great list. It's a great list. I mean, from voting right on down, I think it's a spectacular list. And we do need to take time to remember those victories, because how we won past victories is the way ahead. So the final question today, if I were to ask you that question again in 15 years, which of the current battles would you personally most like to be able to list as an achievement? What do you hope in the next 15 years personally? Which current battle do you most urgently hope we'll be able to list as an achievement 15 years from now? I guess we'll start with Nancy.
Helping to get the NDP elected provincially.
Jenny?
One step ahead of that, as a Marxist, I would say a socialist society. We can truly, truly recognize our full capacity as human beings and really achieve that self-actualization phase that we're all meant to be as creative and individuals. So I love to see the NDP get elected, and would also love to see free education, and also love to beat back all the austerities. We can keep all the achievements we have and build upon that.
And to have, I think that
So
number
keep
one
talking.
passion of mine is pension, that in 15 years, hopefully I'll be retired and I'll be enjoying my pension and I'll be golfing. And I would look back and say to that, yes, you do have a decent pension, and it's a defined benefit and it's strong, and you're going to have a decent retirement.
It's a pretty decent list. A pension we can retire on, a government we can be proud of, and education.
Jenny, you mentioned education. What was it, a century ago, that we provided free education up to grade 12, and we still haven't gotten past that, even though society has changed quite a bit in the last 100 years. I want to thank everyone who was on the panel: Nancy Pridham, Regional Vice President for OPSEU, Colleen Costa, Steward Coordinator for CUPE 4400, and Jennie Ernewein, who is the co-founder of the Toronto Young New Democrats. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.